All right, so I've completely got the old O-ring out, and this does still have a little bit of pliability left to it, but it's certainly flat. The new O-ring, of course, is round, but at least this didn't break. Now, this is going to be probably the hardest part of the procedure. I'm going to go ahead and put the tape back on here. Just a little bit. Now, on the pumps that are slanted a lot towards the front, you can get the tape all the way around. There is so little clearance between that bracket and this O-ring, it's going to be really hard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply some grease to the O-ring. You can use grease or Vaseline, and I'm going to stretch it over the pump head, and I'm going to try to get it in the bottom groove first. And what I'll do is I will remove, since I know that this is as far as everything can come out, I'm going to remove 2 of the bolts, because you must leave 2 bolts in. Alright, so I've got the grease on the O-ring, and we're going to stretch this over the pump head. These are very, very strong O-rings. And I'm just going to roll it till it gets... Now it's going to stick on the 2 screws, obviously the 2 bolts. And how we're going to handle that is I'm going to take my pick and make sure that the O-ring is in the groove on the side where there is no screw or bolt. Okay, so that looks very nice so far. Now what I'm going to do is on this one, like on the front, I'm going to go ahead and remove the tape because I don't need it anymore. You don't have to use the tape, but it just kind of helps you minimize the chance of the O-ring snagging on something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pick and hold the O-ring up. Well, first I'm going to take a screw and put it back in the pump. Now, again, make sure that it's in the groove. And then I'm going to lift this up to support it. The reason I'm doing this is because I don't want the grooves of the bolt cutting into the O-ring. So I'm just going to remove the bolt, and I've got pressure on the head of the pump. Okay, it's down in the groove, and I'm going to put the bolt back. Alright, so I used a high-powered flashlight in my mirror, made sure that everything was good all the way around in the groove. So, the hard part is over. Now we have to get the pump back onto the body, and you need to do this very, very carefully. I'm going to take some slack out of the, take the slack out of the pump head by screwing the bolts in a little bit. Alright, so I've got the pump body secured, or the pump head secured to the pump body, and I'm going to have to put the brackets back on, so I'll have to take one of the bolts off But as long as everything's secured, 2 of these will be sufficient to hold the rest of the assembly down. Alright, so yes, I just had a bolt commit suicide for the bracket. Fuel stop solenoid back in, and you have to be very careful that the plunger and the spring go in there. So I put it on the groove and then just screw it down, and we're going to test this in just a few minutes. Alright, so the next step is I'm going to go ahead and get these lines back on here. Alright, I went ahead and finally got the upper timing cover on. I put the air boot on, and now I will reattach this vacuum line. Just double check all your connectors, make sure everything is the way it's supposed to be. Okay, so now I need to prime the pump, because this pump body, there's a lot of fluid or diesel fuel that we had to extract out. I'll just put it on here, and then I'm going to pull a vacuum. I thought this would fit. There we go. Now what this is going to do is going to draw fuel out of the filter. Okay, I'm starting to get some fuel into the extractor. Right, and as soon as it does that, that's all you need to do. And then we'll hook return line up on the last injector. To facilitate starting, I'm just going to crack this just a little bit, just to let any air out. Alright, so let's crank it over. Alright, so we got diesel fuel coming out, that's good. The real test is going to be, I'm going to really clean this good with some Schaefer's Citrol. Brake clean is good, but nothing is better than the Citrol 266, especially for this kind of for diesel oil and diesel fuel. This stuff is phenomenal. You've seen me use this in a lot of videos. Very, very, very good. And this pump will be immaculately clean of any residue. Brake fluid, or brake parts cleaner is good for the initial clean, but there's nothing better than this stuff. So I'm going to do that and just put some hot soapy water on there. And then I can only tell you just to follow the directions that I laid out. It's not a hard job. It's actually an easier job on the later models that have the injection pump canted way over. This one's very hard to get to, and just take your time with getting that O-ring in there. So I guess what I'm going to do is I will end this video with tomorrow morning when I come out here, and I'm going to film it before I ever crank it, and we'll see what happens. Alright, so here we are back the next day. It's about 10:30 in the morning, and I drove the car about 30 minutes yesterday, maybe about 15 miles. Got the battery charging up, and have not driven it since. It did wonderful, and as you can see, the engine temperature, if you can see that, is 76 degrees. So I don't see any leaks, any weirdness. So let's just crank this over and see what happens. Well, that did not fix the problem then. Well, obviously the leaking O-ring was not the hard crank, or not all of the problem, so we'll have to keep looking to try to determine what else is the cause. I think I had my timing set really high before, and that maybe I'm going to have to put the VAGCOM on it and check it. But anyway, so sometimes that happens. At least it's not leaking anymore. That's a good thing. So one of the two problems is corrected. And when I find out what the cause of the hard crank is, I'll let you know.